The last will and testament of the deceased, Thomas Wayne. In the event of my death, I hereby declare that all my worldly possessions pass to my son, Bruce Wayne. Bruce, I ask that you honor the Wayne family legacy and commit yourself to the improvement of Gotham City, its institutions, and its citizens.
Welcome everyone to the Gamereactor Game of the Year shortlist. We are climbing the ladder towards our favorite gaming experiences of 2015, and after looking at Life is Strange on 6th place, we come to the Dark Knight himself, Batman Arkham Knight by Rocksteady Games, which is to find on our 5th place for Game of the Year. And Philip and I have both played it a lot.
Yeah.
So, the other editors that usually Skype in on this are busy readying all the Christmas content for you that premieres in the week between Christmas and New Year's. So Philip and I are in the studio, and we're going to talk a bit about why Batman is to find on our top gaming experience of 2015.
Yeah.
So Philip, what did you think of the game? Because overall, like with the implementation of the Batmobile mainly, it seems like that when looking back at Batman and Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City, their success and the love from the fans are more absolute than the love that there is for Batman Arkham Knight, which got great scores, don't make no mistake, and from us as well.
Yeah.
But maybe it's something to do with the PC stuff that it seems to me like sort of the general sense is that fans have sort of soured a little bit on it.
Yeah, there's definitely been some backlash due to the issues with the PC launch of the game.
True.
And also the fact that they introduced the Batmobile. I think that also introduced some gameplay elements that people weren't quite prepared for, and that some people felt like it like filler content almost.
Yeah, it's true.
But still, I would say that I played on console, so the PC issues really didn't affect me. But
No.
The Batmobile, it didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. Also just because, I mean, sure, there are times when you have to use it where you'd rather, just push a button rather than pull a lever with the Batmobile or something like that. But again, I thought that it also kind of got outweighed by some of the funner moments in the Batmobile, some of the car chases that happened.
Yeah,
and
there's
some
great
of
stuff with
yeah.
that, yeah.
So for me, the Batmobile wasn't really anything that took away from the game. That kind of remained status quo.
Yeah,
and then it just felt like I've been a huge Arkham games fan. I didn't play Origins, but the Rocksteady games I played.
We're focusing on main entries here.
Exactly, and I thought they've all been great, and this one was kind of like the perfect send off for the series as well.
I think so as well.
Just the way that they managed to get pretty much all the important characters in there. It's a great game, gorgeous game, I think.
Yeah, fantastically looking. But let's focus a bit on the Batmobile, as it is sort of the controversial sort of implementation and almost like the only main new implementation. Like if you look back at Asylum and City, of course, City had the semi-open, but I would call it an open world.
Yeah.
Now, small open world, but an open world nonetheless. And Batman Arkham Knight sort of blows up the gates there. It's very open there. But the Batmobile remains like the new mechanic. There's dual takedowns and all that stuff. But I mean, let's focus on the Batmobile a little bit, because the thing is that I think what people seem to be forgetting, now we're talking about people souring a little bit, but what people are forgetting about the Batmobile, which is interesting, is that there is a few platforming sections involving the Batmobile, which is annoying. It annoyed the heck out of me. We have to lift it up the side of a building, and you have to use the tank mode to glide like across the various like rooftops in order to get into a building. There's, for example, one place where he's supposed to rescue some scientists. This is spoiler free, by the way, but he's supposed to rescue some scientists, and he stands, he uses detective mode, and he looks, and you can see the guards, in orange, pointing their guns at these innocent hostages, and he says, well, this is going to be tough. I better get the Batmobile. And I was like, what? What are you doing? You don't need the Batmobile for this. You've been fine all this time. But like most of the time, the Batmobile is not used for platforming. It's used for transport. and it's used for the car chases, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And as a transport device, like as an alternative to gliding and running on rooftops, it's excellent.
Yeah.
It works fantastic to sort of, some of the car chases are like a part of a mission, but most of them actually occurs naturally. Like
like a dynamic.
Yeah, there's a vehicle. There's a vehicle with Joker. A Riddler rat, someone who knows something, and you chase them down, and you use these little blind fire missiles to take out the vehicle. There's great stuff in there. Like, the main thing that bothered me about it was one of my main things that I love about Asylum and City is the way you go about taking down the Riddler, and now taking down the Riddler was tied to these Batmobile puzzle chase sequences, with the racing tracks on the ground.
Racing tracks, I will agree with that.
Awful.
Yeah, the Riddler racing tracks, I wasn't a fan of. Again, I think it was something that was put in there just to add more gameplay to formula.
To sort of justify
I'm sure
the
there are
implementation.
people out there who really enjoy it.
Yeah, very much so. And they did add a lot of tracks afterwards, post-launch DLC, which people really like. But mainly, the Batmobile is used for, funny enough, getting from point A to point B, and it does so in a spectacular fashion, I feel, where you really feel like you're back in the Tim Burton movies. Like, it's more Tim Burton than it is actually, I think, the Nolan movies, is this giant panache wagon of darkness that rolls through the streets and causes terror and stuff. I really think that at that point, I can understand what Rocksteady was going for. What probably happened was that Warner Brothers was sort of saying, well, we need more gameplay reasons for the fans to dive into this new implementation. You need to put more in. So now it's a part of the puzzles as well. But just traversing the environment in the Batmobile is fantastic.
Yeah.
Great,
But also it feels great. You really, I've never felt more like Batman than driving through the streets of Gotham and then shooting out of the Batmobile and taking out the guy in one
launching,
move.
Yeah, that was great.
And again, getting from A to B in the Batmobile is optional.
It is true.
You can still glide the whole way through if you want, but again, it just feels kind of cool that there is an option for this for the diehard fans.
Very
who
much
love
so.
the Batmobile.
Yeah, I think that's great as well. Now we're also coming back to, despite the fact that Batmobile, the Batmobile is great and sometimes not so great, still I think what makes Batman Arkham Knight a part of our Game of the Year shortlist is because the core gameplay tenets are so powerful and so strong. Like, combat system we're talking about, probably the best hand-to-hand combat system in any game. Yeah. And that's true for Asylum as well as City as well as Knight.
Yeah.
And also the Predator scenes, like sitting atop, striding atop, stalking and scaring the shit out of these witless soldiers, and just taking down the various. Now each villain has their own sort of tied side story.
Yeah.
So, which fantastic, by the way, like finding the opera killer and that great fun, I thought.
Yeah, definitely, and it's just, I don't know, it all works so well together.
Yeah, it's core systems. It's a game that's mostly about like core systems. How does it feel to glide? How does it feel to fight? How does it feel to use like detective mode to track a criminal or a killer or whatever? And also, I think an aspect that people aren't talking as much about because it's so spoiler heavy and not a lot of people have played it ever since the release in June is the story.
Yeah.
And the story is so perfectly nailed. And a lot of people were really, really, I think, curious or perhaps even worried that now that, spoilers, the Joker is dead.
Yeah.
The Joker dies at the end of Arkham City. It came out in 2010. Calm down. Now that the Joker is dead, it starts by you burning the corpse of the Joker. They showed that before the game came out.
That's been shown.
Yeah, the Sony conference. People were worried that now that Mark Hamill's Joker's not in here, well, what happens? And the Scarecrow sort of takes over. But I think they balance those little things like brilliantly in terms of plot.
Yeah, I think really they solved a lot of that. Like the worries that people had were kind of unfounded when it turns.
Yeah, I think, well, do you think, like an honest question is that, do you think that perhaps Knight's story is even better than some in Asylum or City? It's probably better than Asylum's, I think.
I think Asylum was very straightforward.
Yeah.
Plot there, Joker takes over Arkham Asylum, you gotta get rid of the Joker.
Yeah.
The second one is kind of, darker in a lot of ways because
definitely, yeah.
I think that's the game that is heaviest in iconic villains.
Yes, yeah.
Like if you put them up side by side, I definitely think that Arkham City has the most villains. And,
yeah, it's true.
And they all kind of play a big part in the main story. There, you kind of go.
Yeah, go through them all, sort of.
Yeah.
And there's Ra's al Ghul and Hugo Strange and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Even Killer
And
Croc.
then Arkham City is more about Batman himself as
character,
kind of the man behind the mask. What he's going through and this world and how Gotham kind of sees him.
Yeah, it's true.
As Batman.
Also, how Christopher Nolan sort of, The Dark Knight is also very much so about the Joker as a character, and The Dark Knight Rises is very much about Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And that relationship between the iconic Batman and the man behind. And also, this isn't a spoiler either, but Batman Arkham Knight is more of a cerebral experience. It's also about how he perceives himself and how people perceive Batman and how the GCPD perceive both these characters. And I think that is a very smart move to sort of go, well, we've done huge with Arkham City. Let's go a bit subtler to like the send off, which I think was really neatly packed.
And again, up. It goes very dark at certain points in the third game. It's very it's the more mature out of all of them. It's
definitely.
The first one was the most close to the Saturday morning cartoon that some of us grew up with.
With the giant plant, that Poison Ivy boss fight. Shooting like. Very cartoony.
So, but it's an amazing game, and also, I mean, it's got some of the best gadgets I find in the series. They have all the classics that they brought along, but then added some more. Which are a lot of fun to use, especially when you're in that Predator mode. You can really
the line launcher and the electromagnetic pulse gun and the freeze and the little explosive foam thing. I mean, there's such a great stock of.
I mean, at the end of Arkham Knight, you've got so many things. I mean, they also challenged you a lot with it.
I think so too. Yes.
Towards the end, you have so many enemies that also themselves have so many gadgets and things that they can do. So you really need to start thinking. It becomes a big puzzle, especially if you want to get through it through the encounter without getting spotted. Which is that's what I always try to do, but it's sometimes hard.
It's funny actually because. Usually sequels aren't more or less difficult than like the game that preceded it. Like it starts. A game usually starts fairly easy and then ends complex. But I mean, like Arkham City is noticeably more difficult than Asylum, and Night is noticeably more difficult than City because, as you said, the guards now have drones that scan sort of the gargoyles that you're sitting on. They have X-ray vision, all kinds of various weaponry. I mean, they are so the AI is actually, for the love of God, not stupid. So now though, also compared to City, they gang up more. They are very unlikely to go off in separate directions if they're scared. So to change to what you said, you really need to stay undetected, and you really need to not alert the guards to your presence, because then they'll gang up on one location and you'll die. I mean, the game is very punishing like that. So I think that's great.
And I think that was also a point that our reviewer made in the written review, that the game is tough if you're coming in as a new person playing. And even as a hardcore Batman fan as myself, it's been a few years since the last game since I played that. So getting right back into the game really expects you to have kind of it fresh in memory, the combat system. So there's not as much tutorial as you might have hoped, but again, it sets the bar high right from the beginning. But once you get past that, once you get back into the
flow,
the swing of things, then it really works out, and then they start taking it to the next level. So
I think so as well. But it's a game that's so much about fan service and providing send off and closure to the people that have played, like intricately understands Asylum and City. And at that point, it's like reverse Metal Gear Solid 5 that welcomes new players in both plot-wise and gameplay-wise by doing something more easy than, for example, Metal Gear Solid 4. Batman very much is an extension of what has come before. And as you said, if you're coming in like fairly green, it will be an overwhelming amount of systems. And as we said, it's a game that very much relies on the dependency of their systems. The systems are good. And if you don't understand them from the get-go, it's very difficult to get sort of... because funny thing, actually, in the first couple of fights in Arkham Knight, I had forgotten, because it's a long time since I've played City, I mashed square. Constantly mash square. And when you mash square, you don't do well. It's a dance. It's sort of, you have to it's choreography with your finger, actually. So you have to sort of intricately time, hit, block, return, jump, hit,
jump over their heads and so on.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and like very quickly, it shakes up the types of enemies. Like there's one with the shield, there's with the stun batons, and you get your ass handed to you a bunch of times. But it's great. It's great that games do that.
Towards the end, I definitely had a fight that was making me almost throw my controller out the window because they have so many gadgets, the enemies, and it's just this fight that just keeps going. Every time you're so close, this one guy just comes up and bonks you on the head with something.
And most of the time as well, it's so much about being in sync with your combo that if you're hit once, you're likely to be hit 5-6 times, because then you're out of it. Then you sort of zoom out for a little bit.
Yeah, you kind of got to back up and start over.
I can't get back into the rhythm. It's very much about the rhythm of things, which is great. Yeah, and it's sort of we talk a lot about the combat system, obviously, because that's it's so much what the game is known for, the series is known for. Oh yeah, people will say, the Batman games, it's such a great combat system. And it's even a system that's been copied a bunch of times.
Yeah,
like Shadows of Mordor.
Yeah, and Mad Max.
And Mad Max as well, so, we use it. And use it pretty well, both those games.
Yeah, it's become kind of a widely used system now. So.
Yeah, but it's a great system, So, I mean, like, and obviously we should touch upon this, like, aesthetically and in terms of audio. Music and graphics, it's completely gorgeous. Still one of the prettiest games on the next-gen systems. Not on PC.
Another thing that sparked a bit of controversy was the season pass for the game.
Right.
Because they kind of announced there's going to be a season pass. We're selling this game in a deluxe edition that includes the season pass. Buy it now. And people were asking, well, what's in it? And they wouldn't say. They were completely tight-lipped about it. So people were kind of worried. What are we paying for? Extra Riddler tracks? Is that it? Some costumes and so on? But I mean, I went ahead and bought the season pass. I thought, I'm going to trust these guys, see what they do. And I will say that it's been a really steady stream of content that they've released. Yeah. Nothing major. I can't remember.
The Batgirl thing.
They've
family, whatever.
Yeah, Family Ties.
Family Ties,
or something like that. But they have, I think, about 5 different. I might be wrong, but I think there's by now there's Harley Quinn, who was a pre-order.
Yeah.
And then Batgirl, Red Hood,
Mr. Freeze as well, right? Something to do with.
There's something with him, but and then there's also.
Penguin?
Nightwing has a chapter and so on. But they're adding
that's
all
pretty
this...
great, and bunch of costumes, and also you mentioned the racetracks, but also skins for the Batmobile, costumes for the characters.
Yeah.
Which is also like, I know it's a small thing, but it's fan service, adding like the various visual representations.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a good way of just customizing your playthrough if you're going through the second time.
I think now people know the content of it. It's if you find it somewhere on like with a discount, I think it's definitely worth it. Now, when it came out, it was like $50 or something like that. That is a pretty steep price.
Yeah.
But I think it's since fallen pretty heavily in price. So if there's extra content out there for you, chances are, I'm pretty sure Rocksteady is not returning to the Batman franchise ever. They might stay within the DC framework, but they are hiring now for a new project, which is being described as like them moving on per se. Definitely WB Montreal, who made Origins the least good game. It's still okay. Yeah. They are probably going to take up the mantle at some point. Of course, Telltale has a Batman game in the works.
That's true. Yeah, so there will be more Batman in the future.
But Batman Arkham Knight remains one of the most perfect, I think, send-offs for a franchise. And I'm glad that Rocksteady is quitting now, because the trilogy, like with 3 main entries, are so powerful, and Arkham Knight remains like almost for me a perfect send-off for that franchise. So it's great.
Yeah. Definitely.
So that was the 5th place in our Gamereactor Game of the Year shortlist. Now, Join us for more of our favorite games here with the combined editorial staff discussing, debating, and we've come up with this list. And we're climbing the ladder slowly but surely until we reach the top. Gamereactor's combined Game of the Year for GRTV. Also, if you want more Game of the Year coverage, navigate to your local Gamereactor site of choice. And there is, at that point, when this video comes up, a bunch of nominees, winners, and all kinds of stuff in between. So stay tuned for Gamereactor for that. See you.
When Gotham lies in ruin and I turn my gaze to the world beyond, the legend of the Batman will be worth nothing.